Welcome to Sophie's patch. Because we can't have our usual open garden here over Easter, we've decided to share a virtual tour of the property as it is now. It's been a tough summer. We started to get temperatures in the 40s in November, and over January and February, Mount Barker even recorded temperatures that were hotter than Adelaide itself. So the garden's taken a beating with the heat, and even though the last couple of months have been a bit cooler, it's still been really dry. So I'm going to take you on a weeds, warts and all tour to see the garden. The property is divided into watering zones, with about 50% of it surviving on no supplementary watering at all. 25% of it is what I call my moderate watering zone, which is the area around the house and the orchard, and I probably water that about once a week. And then 25% is my high watering zone, which is my in-ground veggie patches. Now the no watering zone is my wildlife corridor and the area up my driveway up to where the windmill is. Now the windmill is a working windmill and it's actually above our bore supply. However, our bore water is quite salty, so I only want to use it if I have to. And at this time of year, salt burn is evidenced on many of my deciduous plants. You'll see the burn on the edge of the leaf. Now it doesn't particularly worry me because deciduous plants are about to drop their leaves anyway. And when they drop their leaves, usually we get good winter rains and that flushes all the salts through the soil profile. But it does mean that there are certain veggies I can't grow. I can't grow peas, beans, corn, anything that doesn't like salt. But do you know what? I can grow so much that it doesn't matter. Come check out my wicking beds. My veggie garden is my dirt lab and I'm always trying new veggies I've never grown before. This year one of the new veggies is something called a ground cherry, Aunt Molly, or it's sometimes even called Cossack pineapple. The fruit's not quite ready yet, but I'm quite excited to see what it's like. You don't actually pick the fruits till they drop off on the ground. And another thing that I'm growing is a rat tail radish. Now, this radish is not actually one that you eat the roots of, it's actually one that you eat these pods off, and they have a lovely sweet radishy flavour. As well as that, I'm growing lots of different sorts of eggplants, chilies, all sorts, and my usual pumpkins. This is one of my many experiments that didn't quite work. This is a little pumpkin called Jack Be Little, and I hoped it would cover the roof, but it's obviously not tall enough. So next year, I'll grow another pumpkin over this and see what we can get. I'm a huge fan of wicking beds and I have 20 of them set around the property. Unlike my in-ground veggie garden, which needs to be watered daily during the hot weather, these only need to be topped up once a week and the plants take the water they want when they need it. So you've got plants that don't get as stressed and they grow healthier and happier and the produce tastes fantastic. If you're looking for a project during this time, wicking beds are great. Go to my website and you'll find all the information on how to make them and also how to fix them when you haven't made them properly, because over the years I've done everything wrong. This is my main in-ground veggie patch and I've still got half of my summer crops in. So you can see there are still tomatoes behind me ripening, but I have started to plant the cool season veggies. So under these white nets I've got a lot of the brassicas. So broccoli, cauliflowers, cabbages, kohlrabis and kale. Anything that I need to protect from those pesky green caterpillars that are laid by the pretty white butterflies that flit around my garden. And when the first frosts come and kill off these tomatoes, then I'll pull the last of the summer crops out. Now to make space for some of these brassicas, I did have to remove some of my summer crops that weren't performing as well. But whenever you have to pull a tomato out before it's ready, simply hang the plant with all green fruit on it under cover somewhere. So I've hung them in my carport and that fruit will continue to ripen over the next couple of months and you get far more ripening than you would otherwise. And I can get baskets of ripe fruit to take inside into the kitchen after several weeks. The garden around the house gets watered about once a week and it's where I've tried to grow a lot of tall shrubs and deciduous plants or deciduous trees, trying to keep our house cool and shady because basically we're a 2-storey stone home in the middle of a paddock and we're very exposed. So I'm trying to take the heat off any way I can. Now, one of the things is that I also love my lawn. We have limited areas of lawn on the hot sides of the house for two reasons. One is if you're stressed and you take your shoes off and walk on the lawn, there's nothing better than to bring you down to earth and help to calm you down. But also, having the lawn around us makes it cooler. And while people look at lawns and think they're wasting water, I rather think of it that it stops us needing to use air conditioning in summers where the temperatures can get in the mid-40s. Now check out the shed garden. It's only a couple of years old. My garden here is quite different in autumn than it is in spring, because over winter we get hard frosts for up to 6 or 7 months of the year, and they can go down to -5. So many of the summer flowering things that are looking gorgeous now, I give a hard haircut to, and then the growth comes back slowly in springtime. So at this time of year, the garden's looking full and voluptuous. There are a couple more sections I want to show you. Follow me. This is another in-ground veggie patch, and I'm basically utilising the space between my citrus grove as my young trees grow. Now over summer, I grow quick growing warm season crops, and I'm growing tomatillos this year. Now there is a section nearby where I've got all sorts of pumpkins, and I've experimented with growing them over walls and over our giant pumpkin. But tomatillos are an interesting fruit. They're what they use to make salsa verde, that green salsa. Sometimes people think it's made from tomatoes, but it's actually made from tomatillos. Now, to be honest, these aren't quite ripe yet, but I'm growing 3 different types. This is a really large variety. This is one called Amarilla that will actually go quite yellow and sweet when it's ripe. And this is a tiny little one. I can't even get it open. Although the fruits will get to about 1 centimetre across. Now, my goal is to actually grow as many tomatillos as I do tomatoes. Because what I've found in the past, if you use them in cooking, they're a really versatile veggie. So you can use them in curries, and they add an interesting sweet, sour sharpness to a curry. Wonderful in something like a red curry. You can use them in luxes, they're beautiful. You can also use them to make cake, and we use my green tomato cake recipe with tomatillos, and they're fabulous. And all I do is simply chop them up, cook them for a couple of minutes, put them in containers and freeze them. Now throughout my garden, I have things self-seeding on paths because actually plants have right of way in my garden, although I do try and tidy it up a bit when we have open garden. This particular one is a favourite. It's the edible chrysanthemum, sometimes called chop suey greens, and you can actually pick young tender foliage and stir fry it. It doesn't really appeal to me, it tastes like a bunch of chrysanthemums. But the reason I grow it is because the beneficial insects like the bees, the ladybirds, the hoverflies and the lacewings just love its flowers. So I let these plants self-seed around my garden to make sure I'm feeding not only my family, but the garden guardians in my garden too. Now, let's go and check out the last thing, which is my poly house. Now, the section of my garden that I'm most excited about at the moment is this. This is my new poly house. The structure's been here for a couple of years, and actually over summer we had shade cloth over it. But I've finally got plastic on the roof. And what it's going to mean is I'm going to be able to grow some plants here that won't take my cold, frosty winter. I'm going to try some winter tomatoes in this structure. I've dug up some of the smaller capsicums and eggplants from around the garden and transplanted them into wicking beds. I've got a mixture of wicking beds and in-ground beds, but I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to enjoy some out-of-season crops. I'm also going to be able to grow some subtropical things in here, like turmeric. Now, turmeric has grown here, but it's never really thrived, and I'd love to be able to grow my own turmeric, ginger and galangal. Now, on the walls of this structure, there's still some of the vertical veggies I've been enjoying over summer and autumn. I grow these quick growing summer climbing veggies because they're a great way to take the heat off structures. But as soon as our first frost comes, my New Guinea bean and my quinoa and climbing spinach will all die off. Now, if you want to learn more about these vertical veggies, we've done a video just about these and it's on my website. But what I'm hoping, secretly hoping, is the climbing tomatoes that are on the mesh panel there will go for several months longer because they're now under cover. So I hope you enjoyed the virtual tour of my garden. I wish you all a very happy Easter. Stay safe and have fun playing in your own garden.